What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Groovy Thursdays. I'm Nick DiVirgilio, and this week we have 3 awesome Phil Collins grooves from that record right there, that one, Abacab. This record has a lot of meaning for me because, well, I am a huge Genesis fan, as you probably already know, but this record, this was the first tour I ever saw. The first Genesis show I ever saw was the Abacab tour at the Great Western Forum. It's not called the Great Western Forum anymore. It's called some other corporate sponsor, but it's still the Forum in LA. I saw that with my cousin Albert Delbaney and my friend Scott Saunders. I think maybe Keith Hopkins was there. I forget exactly, but that was my first Genesis show. One of my big first concerts ever. And it was really cool. I just, I was enamored by seeing the band play. The band that I listened to since I was a little kid. Seeing them live was awesome. I'm still pissed off at my brother Mike, who is 8 years older than me. To this day, I'm holding a grudge about this particular thing because my brother, who saw Led Zeppelin in 1976, Houses of the Holy Tour, 75, whatever, two nights in a row at the Forum. Keith Moon sat in one night. He saw all kinds of great shows, but he also saw the And Then There Were Three tour and the Duke tour. And I begged him to take me to the Duke show. No, not taking his little brother and dragging him around a big concert where everybody was partying and doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, I understand it, but I would have loved to seen either of those shows, but I didn't. Abacab was my first show, and it was really cool. Now, I picked these 3 songs because this is a record that, the old diehard Genesis fans may not be their favorite. This was also the time where Phil was really exploding. The drum sound, it had that Phil Collins In the Air Tonight-esque drum sound. Not exactly, but it had the gated reverb thing throughout a lot of this record. It's a heavy record, lots of just big sounding songs. So I picked Dodo Lurker, which is just a heavy, great tune. No Reply at All, which is not a heavy tune, but it's the first tune with horns. It's a great example of Phil Collins' soulful, funky R&B drumming. Totally cool there. And then another record, the very last song on the record, is really cool because it has that Phil Collins drum sound. Not a lot of cymbals going on, but it's very typical Phil Collins drum beat. He used that beat in a lot of stuff in that era. The stuff that he was producing, it was a sort of a typical thing. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second. Okay. Enough gabbing now. I'm going to get into playing these grooves, but I want to say if you like what's going on here at Groovy Thursdays, you like this video, share it with all your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all those kinds of things. Keep on bringing the comments and suggestions for future grooves. I really love it, and I'm having a great time hanging behind the drum kit doing these things for you now. So I think I'm going to just do it like this all the time. All right, let's get into these grooves. First one, Dodo Lurker. Now, the beginning part of the song is just heavy with those big drum fills. Now, I want to make one caveat here about all of this stuff. Playing these grooves is just an education. It's just a learning thing because the reason these grooves sound so great is because of the drum sound and the person playing the drums, right? So obviously I don't have single-headed concert toms and I don't have Phil's touch, but I have these drums. So just do what you can with whatever drums you have. If you have a 4-piece kit, you can play all of these grooves. If you have just kick, snare, and hat, you can still play these grooves. But don't worry about not having the exact sound. Just try to get the feel and kind of get the fun of these grooves and just put it in your arsenal. That's what we're doing here. Not trying to be exact, just kind of learning and growing the vocabulary. All right? Now, Phil was really great at big, powerful drum fills in between things. He's always been good at that. So, at the top of Dodo Lurker, you have the rhythm of 1, 2, and 3, 4, and that accent on the and. 1, 2, and then fills. Don, da, da, and fill. That's that thing. That's a theme going on. The 2 and 3 and ba ba. Something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's all very simple. You can play that rhythm just on your kick, snare, and hat, right? 3, 4. Do that a couple times, get the feeling of the rhythm, and then try some of these fills like Phil does, but put in your own fills. Just kind of keep them powerful, not too busy. I think that's the cool thing, is that they're not too busy. They're just big and bombastic. To me, that's a great thing. Try some of those. Ready? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Believe me, I love fast, complicated, and busy drum fills for sure. But just having a simple eighth note fill like that really works going around your toms. Another thing that makes those kinds of fills interesting and hard to play is to make sure you don't rush. Those fills are really easy to get above and beyond the beat, and then you have to pull back once you start playing the groove. So slow, deliberate, bombastic fills are a great practice tool. Keep them grounded and keep them in time the best you can. The verse groove has 2 halves to it. And remember, it's a slow 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Slow count. 1, 2, 3, 4. A very cool thing that happens in the first 2 beats of the groove is in the kick drum pattern. The kick drum just plays 1 and 2, okay? 3 eighth notes in a row. You're playing eighth notes in your hi-hat and a backbeat on the snare drum. What's cool about that is on the backbeat, on beat 2, the kick drum plays also, okay? You're playing it with the snare drum. What's cool about that, when it gets around to playing the whole thing and the sound within the band, that kick drum landing on beat 2 on the backbeat just adds weight to the whole groove. The low end of the kick drum is very cool. It's so simple, but it's just so very cool. The second half of the groove doesn't start right in the middle. It starts on the last 16th note of beat number 2. That's with your kick drum. Then the snare drum is playing the in-between notes. Then you have the backbeat right on beat 4 with a double in your left hand. Let me sing out the kick and snare. I'm going to play real quiet on the drums and sing out the rhythm for you. Hopefully it'll make sense like this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and 1 and 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and 1 and 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and 1 and 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and 1 and 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and 1 and 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and 1 and 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and. Add your hi-hat playing straight eighth notes, and you got the groove. But what makes this special, like Phil does it, is the sauce, all the in-between, the ghosts, the sloppiness in your snare hand, and my left hand. For him, it was his right hand because he's a left-handed drummer. And when I say slop, I mean good slop. The buzzes and that kind of stuff, and the little ghost notes in between. That's the stuff that gives it the special flavor. Let me play it for you real quick. 2, 3, 4. I think the key to that is to make sure those ghosts and those in-between notes aren't too loud. The double you play on the backbeat on beat 4, pa-pa, you want those to be loud. That's part of the whole thing. But everything else could be just filler. So you want those ghost notes to be light and airy. Or at least try to make them light and airy, right? Once you get the rhythm down like that, build up not the tempo, but the power of the groove. This song is heavy. You got to play the drums hard when you play this groove. So start soft, get the coordination down, get the rhythms of the offbeats on the kick drum, the double and the snare drum, that kind of stuff. Play it soft, and then just build it up to where you play hard. And then when you go from the verse, where you're bashing the crash cymbals and playing those tom fills, you get to that verse, and it's still big. Keep it big. Now let's get to the groove for No Reply at All. No Reply at All is just a 1-bar groove, and it's very simple. Eighth notes in the right hand, your hi-hat hand. 1 and on the kick drum. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. That's it. Backbeat on the snare drum. There's in between. There's the ghosties. There's all that kind of stuff going on. But it's the hi-hat that is the key to this whole thing. There's an accent in the hi-hat on 4 and that propels the whole groove forward. Now, remember, you got the funky guitar, you got the funky bass line, the funky horn section, the Earth, Wind, and Fire horns. So all of that is adding to the rhythm. But that little nuance of the 4 and, the accent on 4 and on the hi-hat, again, it's these little things that Phil Collins did that just, one note could really be the special sauce of a whole groove. One note, okay? So now in your left hand, your snare hand, you play solid backbeats on 2 and 4, and pretty much the rest of that is that 16th note filler, the in-between stuff, right? So there is like a 16th note sort of pulse, like a shaker action kind of thing happening, even though you're just playing eighth notes in your right hand. Your left hand is doing sort of like this. Playing in between the eighth notes in your right hand. Now, again, be soft, make sure they're ghost notes, all that kind of stuff. The eighth notes you play in your right hand, don't keep them all straight. Have some life to them. So, you're going like up, down, up, down, up, down, that kind of thing in the feel. You can do it in your wrist. The softer stroke, your wrist is actually coming up. The louder stroke, you're going down onto the side of the cymbal, that kind of thing. But make sure you really accent that 4 and you'll just feel how this thing jumps forward. 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and. And pretty much that's it. It's just such a cool thing, such a little nuanced thing. That accent on 4 and is really cool. And the last groove that I chose for my 3 awesome Abacab grooves is the last song on the record, Another Record. Now this has the typical, I call it that, it's kind of my definition of it. You might have a different definition of it, which is totally fine, but it has that In the Air Tonight sort of feel to the groove, this kind of thing. You've heard that before. Phil used that a lot back in the 80s. It was his signature iconic groove and, of course, the sound of the drums. This pattern is 2 bars long, and the beginning of each bar is exactly the same. It has that In the Air Tonight rhythm to it. So that kind of thing, you play at the beginning, then you have a hi-hat on beat 3, then second bar comes around, you do that In the Air Tonight beat again, and then you play the second half of the second bar, you do the fill on the rack tom and your kick drum. When you put it all together, it's like this. That pattern between the rack tom and your kick drum starts on beat 3, and it's just 16th notes. 3 E and a 4 E and a. Pretty simple. 3 E and a 4 E and a. Another reason it sounds so cool on the record is that he's doing it with his small, probably 8-inch tom on that single-headed drum kit of his, and with the gated reverb and all that kind of stuff. It just pokes out in such a great musical way. But again, do that on whatever you have on your kit. You can do it on the snare drum the whole time, and it'll sound really cool. Check it out. 3, 4. Put it anywhere you want around your kit. How about this? I mean, you can do it anywhere around your drum kit. So get creative, get the rhythm down, and then just make it your own. Take it all kinds of places. And there you go, a quick run through of 3 awesome drum grooves from the Genesis record. Abacab, Phil Collins, of course, the amazing drummer on this record. Such a great sound, such a great feel, and it's a record that sounds like the time, right? It sounds like the mid to early 80s. Great sounding Phil Collins drums, big bombastic drum fills, big keyboard sounds from Tony Banks. It's a really cool record, I think, and it was my very first Genesis show, so it has a special place in my heart for sure. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and we'll see you again next week. Keep on rocking, keep on playing drums. We'll see you again soon, everybody. Cheers.